Hi everyone, today's video is on self-sabotage. I know it sounds crazy, but if we really think about it, there are all these different ways that we self-sabotage, and we don't really know that we are self-sabotaging sometimes. That's one way that we self-sabotage without knowing. We sometimes self-sabotage subconsciously. That's almost the same, it's a little bit different. And sometimes we sabotage knowing that we are sabotaging. Okay, ask me how I know. I've done it. I know other people in my life have also done it. And so I am just talking from the perspective of having experience and also having experience with other people doing the same thing. So let's talk about it. In this case, we're talking about health, but it could be anything, okay? So if we're talking about eating well, taking care of our health, eating an organic, whole foods, plant-based diet, okay? If this is what we're talking about in this video, however, it really applies across all areas. So for example, if we have made a decision that we want to eat an organic, whole foods, plant-based diet every single day and not eat anything else outside of that, what sometimes could happen is we could knowingly, right? The first way, knowingly decide, forget it, today I'm just going to eat a fast food burger for no reason. But I'm just gonna decide to do it just because it tastes good. I just feel like I'm just gonna do it, right? Knowingly, we could decide to do something like that, right? Sometimes knowingly, somebody could make a decision. This is actually kind of a mixed thing, but somebody could make the decision to stop eating an organic, whole food, plant-based diet because they might feel that they're too thin. They're used to being a certain weight, but because they've been eating it differently, they may decide that they are too thin, so they go back to eating the way that they used to eat to get back to the weight that they used to have. And so this is another way that we might self-sabotage. And along the same lines, the first example that I gave is like just thinking that I deserve to have a fast food burger, right? Just forget the whole foods plant-based thing. I deserve this. And, you know, somebody said something so profound to me one time. It's like, there's so many things that we do that we think we might deserve, but what we really are doing is we are sabotaging our progress. So we'll say, I deserve to have a fast food burger, but what that ends up doing is it reverses all the work that we've been doing. Now, you know, if somebody was to take a blood test, they would find all these things in our blood. We're feeling sluggish, all of this stuff that we've been doing. I mean, it doesn't cancel everything out, but for that particular day and a few days afterwards, our bodies are trying to process this fast food burger. So instead of it actually being a reward, it ends up being something that hurts us. That is another way in which we knowingly self-sabotage. The subconscious thing has happened to me a lot, okay? And how that actually happens is I'll find myself in a situation. I don't know how I got here, but somehow I'm here. I am literally eating a cookie. The cookie is halfway gone. I don't know how the cookie got in my hand or in my mouth, or half of it is already in my stomach. I'm like, how did this happen, right? Like, that's the way that we subconsciously and just out of nowhere find ourselves in situations where we have now sabotaged something. Now, because we're so used to something, we find ourselves in that situation, whether, you know, we're hanging out with people and that particular day, we did not decide that we were going to have this particular cookie, or we decided we didn't want to have cookies in general, whatever. This happens subconsciously. Now, I'm not saying these things just to beat us up. I just want to bring the awareness to our, to us. I just want us to be aware of these things so that as we're moving through this, because it took me a while to realize like some of this stuff. So it's good to be aware that these things could happen. So suddenly, I call it falling asleep. I fell asleep. I'm walking, but I fell asleep. And what that looks like is I'm sleepwalking or I'm sleep eating. And then I wake up in the middle of it and I'm like, oh my gosh, how did I get here? I know you guys can relate to that. And the other way that we self-sabotage is we unknowingly self-sabotage. So we're actually trying to do well, but we end up in a situation that we did not know was bad for us, okay? This has also happened to me, and I know it's happened to many of the people that I talk to and that I help along the way, that they think that, okay, let me cut out meat, but instead pick up a bunch of processed foods. So example could also be something like, I stopped eating eggs and sausage and pancakes for breakfast. Instead, I'm eating cereal, okay? I'm eating Cheerios. That's a good one. I was gonna say Lucky Charms. A lot of people know that Lucky Charms, it's not good for us, but Cheerios are also not good for us. They're really simple sugars. They get processed in the same way. They go through us very quickly and turn into sugar really quickly. And then, our body processes it in the same way that you might as well have just eaten those Lucky Charms, right? So, and it's processed and it's got a bunch of other things going on with it that is not good for us. Instead, you probably should have had a smoothie and that would have been good, okay? So it's just important to remember that sometimes we find ourselves in these situations where we unknowingly make decisions and find out that it's not good for us. Somebody talked to me the other week about frying cabbage. And I was like, nah, you don't want to fry cabbage, right? You're still frying the cabbage. That's not good. Maybe put that cabbage, eat that cabbage as a salad. You might want to put it in a smoothie. I haven't done that one yet, but really frying the cabbage doesn't make the cabbage good for us. Pasta is another one. Eating just regular pasta, not good. It's also food that doesn't really have much nutritional value in it. It's just going to get processed like a simple sugar, and you might as well have just eaten the Lucky Charms or a cookie or a cake, something like that. It doesn't have much fiber in it. It doesn't really do too much for our bodies. So another way, I'm just running through some of the foods that I've heard of. Like somebody will say something about carrot cake. Well, it has carrots in it. Well, it has carrots in it, right? And I'm like, no, you can't have carrot cake. Food is a package, okay? Now, you've broken down the carrot and you put it in a whole bunch of stuff that makes cake and you think that it's good for you, but it's really not. Just because it's got a sprinkle of carrots in it, it doesn't mean that it is good for us. Here's another one. When people also make this transition to eating plant-based food, there's a difference between eating plant-based food and being a vegan. Now, there are some vegans that just eat plant-based foods, and there are some, it's just that way. There are some vegans that eat plant-based foods, but sometimes vegans just don't eat meat. They don't have anything to do with anything animal. So no animal products, no milk, no dairy, cheese I'm talking about, for example, no eggs, no leather, like don't wear any. So anything that may cause harm to animals, vegans will just stay away from. But you also have unhealthy vegans. So people who are vegan, but they're still eating vegan cookies every day. They're still eating pasta. They're still eating everything that is just not meat, that's just not related to animals, but it doesn't mean that it's healthy. So why I always say you want to focus on a whole foods, plant-based diet that is organic, that is important. Like I'm really, really specific about this. I'm not saying you need to be vegan and you need to be vegetarian. I really am specific about what I'm saying is needed in order to have a life that is full of vitality, that one can live for many, many years without chronic disease with, is a whole foods, organic, plant-based diet. Now, Some people aren't going to like this. And I understand if somebody's trying to make a transition, why they would do this. But there are these meats now, these vegan meats, these plant-based, what they call plant-based meats that are out there. I'm not going to name them. You guys know what they are. There are two that are very, very popular. But unfortunately, these ones are also not healthy. They have been processed. And really, if you look at the label, it doesn't say, it has a lot of things on the label. We don't know what it is. That was my dog moving around. There are some things on the label that we don't know, and so it doesn't make sense to eat them. So that is really it. There are some things that we eat that we self-sabotage, either knowingly, subconsciously, or unknowingly, which make it kind of difficult for us to get to the other side. But if we really just focus on an organic, whole foods, plant-based diet, we're going to be just fine.